Hey everyone, welcome to CLAT Nation 2026. So, Mendes this year has started a new venture conducting free CLAT coaching for all of you, and today we'll be discussing English. Okay, so now let's take a look at the passage. So, the passage starts like the idea of evolution. So, just like the starting words, this is something that is related to the idea of evolution. When it comes to evolution, there is something we all know. It is about Darwin. Okay, the idea of evolution, which is a gradual change, was not a new one. Something about evolution that has to be noted here, that it is a new one. It was not a new one, something that of a gradual change. Then the Greeks had thought of it, so had the Darwin, the grandfather of Charles Darwin, and also Frenchman Lamarck. Okay, this is something, some details related to Darwin, grandfather, Frenchman, Lamarck. These are the names that are quoted in this passage. Okay. Now, it is one thing to have an idea. So, here, starting from here, we are going to establish some kind of idea that is related to the evolution. What is it? It is one thing to have an idea. Okay, when a sentence starts like, it is one thing, meaning in the next sentence, it will be always about something, another thing, some other thing. So, if it is one thing, then on the contrary, it will be on another thing. Just like we say, on one hand, so the sentence, if the sentence starts like on one hand, the next sentence will be on the other hand, or like on the contrary. So just like that, it is one thing to have an idea, and what is that idea? We can all guess and sometimes make a lucky guess, something about it, making guesses. And what is the another thing here? It is quite another thing. What is that contrary thing? To produce a proof of the correctness of that idea. The things about guesses is that we really don't know, or we really don't have an explanation while we are making a guess. So that is the one thing. And the another thing is that the exact opposite of what is a guess. You have a proof, you have an explanation to what you are talking about. So that is the quite another thing. Okay. Now, Darwin thought he had that proof in his notebooks. So here we are telling about something that Darwin had with him. What is it? He had some kind of proof in his notebook. Let's see what it is about. He saw that all animals had to struggle to survive. So here Darwin actually noted something in his notebook, and what was it about? It was about that the animals had to struggle to survive. So that is like a statement that Darwin actually noted in his notebook. Okay. Now, those which were best at surviving their environment passed on the good qualities which helped them to their descendants. So here he is making a conclusion that the animals had to struggle to survive. And how did they do that? Those which were best at surviving, survival of the fittest, which you might know. So those which were best at surviving their environment passed on the good qualities which helped them to their descendants. Now, after making a whole statement about the animal struggle, survival and survival of the fittest, what is the conclusion that he came to? This was called the survival of the fittest. So, starting from here, he is establishing something. The animals had to struggle or to survive. How did they survive? The one who survived in their environment passed on those qualities to their descendants. And then finally, he called that theory the survival of the fittest. So, till here, it is about the evolution, how we are reviewing the evolution, that it's not a new one, it's a gradual change. And then comes about the guesses and the contrary ones. One, we can make guesses, and the other one, we have a theory about it. And then comes, what was Darwin doing? Darwin had a notebook. What did he note in the notebook? Something about the struggle of the animals. How did the animals struggle? They just passed on the good qualities to their descendants, the one who survived. And at last, he came to a conclusion that this theory was called as survival of the fittest. Now here, the passage ends. Actually, here the passage ends all the idea about evolution. That is done. Now, from here it starts. For example, I don't know what are the next three sentences. It might be something related to the current scenario, or something that can be quite related to this survival and evolution things. Okay, what is the example? For example, in a cold climate, those who have the warmest fur will live Darwin believed that this necessity for an animal to deal with its environment explained the immense variety of creatures. Now here a small example is given. The one who is having the warmest fur will survive with cold. So which is nothing new idea or nothing, no complicated, no rocket science, this is easy. And then comes what was Darwin's belief. Whenever you are reading a passage, something that you have to keep in mind, if the author of this passage is saying something like this person believed or this person thought, whatever comes after it might be important, because the question relating to the passage might be what did that person believe. So that comes at the end of the passage. So Darwin believed that this necessity for an animal to deal with its environment explained the immense variety of creatures. He came to two conclusions basically. What was it? The first conclusion was this: the survival of the fittest. And later on there was another conclusion as well. What was it? For an animal to deal with its environment explained the immense variety of creatures. So this is how you divide a passage and make an understanding about it. Now let's go to the questions. Okay. At the time that Darwin arrived on the scene, the idea of evolution. So you have to take a moment to read the question and just go through the options. But here, before going to the options, there is something that you are familiar about, right? What is it? The idea of evolution. The whole passage is starting with the idea of evolution. And what was that idea? That it was not a new one and it was a gradual one. That nobody actually had an idea about it. Now, let's come to the question. Was an idea unheard of? Had already been proved? Definitely not. Had been thought of but not proved? Was not thought fit for exploration. So, it was not an idea that was unheard of. Of course, they have been hearing about it, so it is not. Had already been proved beyond doubt. That is definitely not, because everybody is discovering a new thing every day. So that is not. Had been thought of it but not proved. So this is what we were talking about in the third sentence about making guesses, which is the one thing, and having a proof is the other thing. So nobody has an idea about how it is found out. So it is not proved. So this is our answer, and we have the fourth option, was not thought fit for explanation, which is definitely not. So that's how we got the third answer. And coming to the passage, since this is a very small passage, I don't think you will need much time to read it. But if it's a long passage, I'll suggest you go to the questions first and then come back to the passage. Okay. And this is not having any complicated words or something which is difficult for you to comprehend. This has all the symbol words. So I'm not going into any new words as such. Let's go to the next question. Identify the figure of speech in the sentence. So first thing you have to know, there are a few figure of speech that we use in English in order to make your description attractive or meaningful or exaggerated or as per your need. And here we have a sentence. It is one thing to have an idea we can all guess and sometimes make a lucky guess. It is quite another thing to produce a proof of correctness of the idea. This is something we read at the beginning of the passage. Now I want you people to take a minute to look at the options and what might be really the answer. We have four options, say metaphor, contrast, personification and hyperbole. So if you want, you can go back to your passage and try reading it, because when it is within the passage, maybe you will find it more meaningful. But here I think they have given the whole sentence as such. So what might be this? Is it a metaphor, a contrast, a personification or a hyperbole? Before going to that, in order to find out what kind of a figure of speech this is, you need to know what are these. So in the following questions after this passage, we are having examples and questions related to each one of these. So here I will be only discussing about the answer. Okay, what are they talking about here? Is it some kind of a comparison that is going on? I told you like about one thing, about the other thing. So they are talking about two different things, right? one thing is to have an idea and the one thing is to have a proof. They are two different things which is very unrelated. So it is not a metaphor. It is actually a contrast. We'll talk about contrasting colors, right? Complementing each other, but they are talking about different things but compared at the same time. That is called a contrast. That is, we are talking about a huge big thing on one hand, on the other hand we are talking about something tiny. So here is a contrast. Just like that, here we are talking about an idea which is a total guess, we have no idea about, and on the other hand we are talking about a proof, we have correctness, we have something of a theory that can be explained. So they are two different things, so that is why it is called as a contrast. So here is the next question. According to Darwinian thought, the world of animals is marked by. What did he had something to talk about the world of animals which he noted down in his notebook. If you have listened to what I told about the passage, you might remember that. Okay, look at the examples given here. Peaceful coexistence, a struggle for survival, indifference towards each other, love and friendship. The thing is that, I'm just going back to the passage for a minute. Here, I think we read this passage more like 3 to 4 times. So in the options we had something related to peace, we had something related to love and friendship. Actually, did you see any of these words in this whole passage? No. The only word we were familiar about was all the animals had to struggle to survive. So the rest of the words were not even there. While you're reading a passage, if it is too long, we do the skimming part. The skimming is where you make a quick reading. You might not totally interpret what is there in the passage, but you will just have a vague understanding about what is the passage. That is called skimming. So while skimming, what you do is that there is something called keywords. Something called keyword. Here Darwin is definitely a keyword because this is everything discussed about what was Darwin doing as such. And we had something about struggle to survival, that can be a keyword. Survival of the fittest, that can be a keyword. So the last sentence, animals to deal with environment, explain immense variety of creatures, that can be a keyword. So these are the keywords that has to be kept in mind. So later when you read the question and then you go to the options, you might find these words in the passage. So when you remember, oh okay, here are a few keywords that I kept in mind and that is there in the options. So you can just cross check it and you can come back to the answer. So here similarly we have this sentence, right? A struggle for survival, something that Darwin kept in mind and noted in his notebook and answered. So this is our answer. Okay. The expression the survival of the fittest means that. What do this expression really mean? Okay. Here we have a lot of same words, weak, survive, the strong, the strong, the strong, similar words. So what we are going to do is that we are going to read the sentence and understand what it means. The strong will survive while the weak will perish. Okay, the strong one will survive while the weak one will die, perish, meaning it will be vanished with time. The strong and the weak will live peacefully. As I told you, we did not have a word peacefully, so we need not go to that option. The strong will help the weak survive. We had nothing about helping in the passage, so this will definitely not come. Then both the strong and the weak will survive. When we are talking about two different communities, say strong and the weak, and we are combining it like both, there was nothing called both in the passage. There was no such word called both in the passage, if I am not wrong. So the only thing that is going to happen is that the strong will survive while the weak will perish. This is one way of answering the question. That means we are going through each and every option. The other ways, you need not go to the rest of the options, because what do you already know? You already know the fact that it is the survival of the fittest and the rest of them are going to perish. So the strong will survive while the weak will perish. You can confidently go to that answer and omit reading these three. But if you have some doubt, then you can do this cross checking. Okay. Now, I told you something at the very end of the sentence. For example, and a tiny example was given. What was it? In the cold, the one with the warmest fur will survive, right? All animals can survive? Definitely not. No animal can survive? That is also not. Only animals with fur can survive. That makes sense. Here the point is, imagine you haven't read the passage at all. You did not know what is going on in the passage. Still, if you read in colder climates, who can survive? If you apply some common sense, you will definitely know only animals with fur can survive, right? Animals are hard to come by. That is definitely not our answer. So, this is how you get the answer. Okay. Darwin thought that the environment, he thought about something, right? And while discussing in the passage, I told you when there are sentences like the author believed or the writer believed or he thought or she thought something, that means the sentence that is going to come right after that might be of importance in the whole passage. See, it came as a question just like I said. Has no effect on animals? Definitely not. It is having some effect on animals. Has lot of effect on animals. Has a marginal effect on animals. Has an effect on man but not on animals. We are talking about animals here. So, it has a lot of effect on animals. This is our answer. Now, we are going to the next passage. We had 5 questions from this short passage. Okay. This is something about Mikhail Gorbachev, and comparatively this is a bit big passage. So, let us take a look at this. This has something about Mikhail Gorbachev's ouster, though dramatic in every respect, is on no account a surprise. This is a statement talking about that it's dramatic and it is not surprise. It is not a surprise that it is dramatic. That means it is expected to be dramatic. I am just giving a highlight to the sentence. Okay. Both his foes and his closest friends. What are foes? Foes means enemies. Okay. I am just rounding it up since it is a new word. It might be a new word for some of you. And his closest friends had been warning him of it with a heightening sense of urgency for the past several months. So, his foes and his friends were reminding him about something, had been reminding him about something with urgency. Okay. Its consequences, however, are wholly unpredictable. Okay, they are talking about its consequences which are wholly unpredictable. I am just underlining this word. The Soviet Union could well witness protracted violence on a mass scale should the reformists and supporters of the Republic, those who have sought varying degrees of sovereignty for themselves, choose to defy the central authority. Here, I am going to divide the sentence since it's a long sentence, right? You cannot see a comma or something. There is only just a few commas here and the full stop is at the very end. So, this is a long sentence. They are talking about the Soviet Union could witness something. What was they witnessing? The violence in mass scale, and the supporters of the Republic, those who have sought varying degrees. That means they are having some difference in opinion with the central authority. They are having a difference in opinion with the central authority. Okay. Now, it is possible that the country, comma, meaning they are going to make some viewpoint about this perspective. After an initial period of uncertainty and perhaps even violence could revert to the pre-perestroika system. So, here they are telling that after this violence and all these problems, it might come back to the pre-perestroika system. They are talking about another possibility. Okay. Equally uncertain, just like this is uncertain, it is said that it is possible. So, it is not certain. So, equally uncertain is what? What is the next thing they are uncertain about? Is the course of the East-West relations. It is the course of the East-West relations. These are bound to deteriorate, meaning degrade, to deteriorate though the extent of deterioration must remain a matter of conjecture, hailed abroad as a leader who had dared to free Soviet citizens from fear, who had enabled the countries of Eastern Europe to become democracies, even as they regained for their full sovereign status, who had paved the way for the reunification of Germany, and who had exposed communism for what it truly was, a dying tyrant clinging to power. He appeared at home to come under the fire from all sides. So, just starting from here to here is the kind of revolution part which was done. So, it is all the explanation given what was done, way of the reunification of Germany, exposed communism, and all those things are given. Sorry. Now, let us take a look at the question. Under Gorbachev's term, the Soviet people were, 4 options are given. What are they? Afraid to speak, indisciplined and lazy, committed to communism, and not afraid to criticize. What was it given? What was told about the nature, that was all about the problems and revolution and struggles that were going on at that time? Were they quiet or afraid to speak? No, they were not afraid to criticize, right? They were not afraid to criticize. And where would you see that? Hailed abroad as a leader who had dared to free Soviet citizens from fear, etc., 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 were all the things that were given, that the people were never quiet. The people were never quiet. So, this is our answer. Let us go to the next one. Okay, here is a figure of speech. He had exposed communism for what it truly was, a dying tyrant clinging to power. Here, are we talking about Gorbachev or are we talking about communism? What are we talking about? We are talking about communism, and we are saying he had exposed communism. Okay, he had exposed communism, or for what it truly was, of what? This it here refers to the communism. So, we are not talking about the person, we are talking about communism. And what was it? It was like a dying tyrant clinging to power. I think this is the last sentence in the passage, right? A dying tyrant. So, they are telling that communism, the idea of communism was a dying tyrant clinging to power. Here, when we are telling it is a dying tyrant means, you know, a very problematic leader. In fact, a dying tyrant meaning the communism is like a person now, right? Now, we are thinking that it is a dying tyrant, a person definitely. So, when we come to the figure of speech, what would it be? Personification. So, now we already know what is a contrast. Now, what is a personification? Just like the word suggests, when something that is a non-living thing is compared to a person, who is given a person-like figure. We are telling here communism, it is an idea. So, communism is what? It's a person. Who is that person? A dying tyrant. So, here an idea is compared to a person. So, that is why it is called personification. Okay. Now, the post-Gorbachev era may witness. What might happen after the Gorbachev era is the question. A more open economy, reversal of perestroika, or greater role for reformers, sovereignty for republics. So, this is actually not a difficult question because this is exactly given in the passage. Can you find where it is? It is possible that the country, after an initial period of uncertainty and perhaps even violence, could revert to the pre-perestroika system, is the answer. Perestroika is a kind of a political reform movement by the CPSU, if I am not wrong. So, this is the answer. It is already given in our passage. So, our answer is reversal to perestroika. That's our answer. And it is not a difficult question, which is very clearly given in the passage. Okay. As a result of his policies, the countries of Eastern Europe became democratic and truly independent, authoritarian and inhuman, united and totalitarian, democratic but with a monarchy. Are they telling anything about monarchy? No, I don't think they are. United and totalitarian, are they talking about any of these keywords? No. Authoritarian and inhuman, are they talking about anything that is authoritarian and inhuman? No. But they are talking about democratic and truly independent. So if you have a doubt, let's go back to the passage. Okay. So, where can you see that? Where is it seen? Hailed abroad as a leader who had dared to free Soviet citizens from fear, who had enabled the countries of Western Europe to become a democracies even as they regained their full sovereign status. So, here we can see something that is related to democracy and independence. Okay. Here the option A is our answer. We are going to the next question. The removal of Mikhail Gorbachev from power is, I think this has something to do with the very first sentence in the passage. Something that I told that it was not a surprise, right? That it was not something that was to be surprised, but it was something that is to be expected, right? So, vivid and shocking? No. It is actually what is the opposite of surprise. Dramatic but expected. It was expected, right? It was not taken by surprise. Thrilling and extraordinary? No. Strange and cruel? No. So, our answer is dramatic but expected. So, that's the end of this passage and its questions. Now, let's go to the next passage. Okay. Now, Bansilal's train was late, etc., etc. So, this is something that is not related to history or a description. This is a kind of a part of a story, some part of a story. And actually, I will say that stories are way easier than the rest of the history kind of passages, because stories will have a flow and it is also easy to remember when it comes to the stories. Okay. Bansilal's train was late and it reached Bombay a little after midnight. So, here they are talking about a timeline where it was after midnight. It was his first visit and he didn't know where to go. Okay, he was confused and it was his first visit to Bombay. He thought he would go to a country where he would not have to pay rent. A country is a kind of a place where you stay, a cheap place like a motel kind of thing, where he would not have to pay rent, but he had an idea about that place. What was that idea? That he would not have to pay rent. But he did not know how to find one at that hour. That means he is new to that place, he is late at night and he wants something cheap and he thought this place was for free and he did not know. He wanted to go there, but at the same time he did not know where it actually was or where he could find one. Okay, then what did he do after that? He asked a porter. He asked a porter to get him a cheap room. He asked a porter to get him a cheap room. The porter asked him for 3 rupees to take him to one. So, that was the fee at that time. So, it's 3 rupees and it is still called as Bombay. So, it is somewhere in the past, a long time ago. Okay, but Bansilal waved him away and walked out of the station. So, when we find an auto too expensive, we will say we don't need it. So, just like that, Bansilal waved him and walked out of the station. He wandered through the streets and asked a number of people, but he could not find a room cheap enough for him. So, he didn't get the help of the porter, but he wandered through the streets searching of a cheap one, but actually he couldn't find. He asked a lot of people, but he couldn't. He sat down on a park bench to think of what he should do next. So he had no idea, so he was thinking what to do next. He was very tired and fell asleep on the bench. He was very tired, so he fell asleep on the bench and woke up next morning stiff in every limb. Limb meaning your hands and your arms, your legs were all very stiff. It might be cold, so he's having a total body ache. Okay, stiff in every limb, but he smiled when he realized that it was the cheapest night's lodging that he had ever had. So he didn't have to pay anything. So though he was tired and he had a body ache everywhere, he just thought it was the cheapest he could have, right? So that's about this passage, and it's very simple. Now let's go to the question. Bansilal could not get any accommodation for the night. As what was the reason? All the hotels in the cities were closed. Definitely not. All the hotel rooms were booked. No. The passage had nothing to say about hotels actually, or about booking and as such. The hotels were too expensive for him to afford. He wanted to spend the night in the open. He didn't want to spend his night in the open. He was looking for a cow tree, but it was too expensive for him. So the answer is the hotels were too expensive for him to afford. Now, in the passage, the word cow tree should mean, what is it? Is it something expensive? No. A highway hotel? No. A roadside eatery, something where you eat? No. It was a resting place to begin with, and it was not a hotel, and it was not expensive. So it was a free resting place where you rest. Or that was his idea about a cow tree. The potter refused to help Bansilal because, is it because he was rude or he had no previous acquaintance with the potter? No. He spoke a language which the potter could not understand. The passage says nothing about a language. He refused to pay the potter any tip. He did not pay anything, right? So that's why he didn't want to take it. So this is the answer. The night in the open. So at the end, he slept somewhere in the open. What happened after that? Did he feel refreshed? Maybe. But let's take a look at the rest of the options. Gave him aches all over his body. That was there. He was stiff in the morning when he got up. So that is the answer. I need not go to the next sentence because it is make his limbs stronger. No. Did not affect him at all. No. So the answer is option B. When you read refreshed Bansilal, you might feel, oh, maybe that's right because he was happy that he could stay in a place rent free. But the next option shows that gave him aches all over his body. Okay. From the passage, Bansilal emerges as, here he is asking about a character of Bansilal. Is he thrifty, extravagant? That is definitely not. An adventurous person? No, he wanted a stay. A fun-loving person? Definitely not. He was a thrifty person, right? He was very economical with his money. Maybe we can call him a miser, a person who is very unwilling to pay money. So he was a thrifty person. He was careful with money, right? Okay, so it's the next passage after that. The speciality with this passage was, not even once did we have to go back to the passage to read once again what was happening. What was the point with that? Because stories are easy to understand. When you read it, you need not actually remember keywords or do skimming and all that, because it's a story. You can keep in mind a story, what happened. This person came to this place, he was new, he wanted a cheap place, and only that word cow tree was given there. So he thought that place was rent free. He asked a potter, he had to give tips 3 rupees or something. He was not ready for that. He slept in the open, he had stiff limb, he woke up and felt happy that he did not have to pay any money. That's the end of the story. You can just tell the whole story in like 6 to 7 sentences, and not even once did we go back to the passage to see what happened. The rest of the passages, what was the problem? After every question, we had to go back. And that is actually making us lose a lot of time, but here we saved some time. Okay. Let's take a look at the next passage. Most of us use the products of science. Okay, this has something to say about science. I am reading this passage just as with you guys for the first time. So, use the products of science. What are the products? We have a list of products here. Railways, aeroplanes, electricity, wireless and thousands of others, etc., etc. So, these are the things, these are the products of science. Here, without thinking how they came into existence. They are not telling something about science or the products, it is about something that we don't even know how it came to existence. Okay, we have no idea about that. Okay, we take them for granted as if we were entitled to them as a matter of right. So, what do? We don't know how they came into existence, we just take them for granted, right? And we don't even know what to do with it. We imagine that it is our right to use it as per our wish. We are very proud of the fact that we live in an advanced age. Okay, what are we proud of? We are proud about something. We are proud of living in an advanced age and are ourselves very advanced. We are very advanced and we are proud of it. Okay. Now, there is no doubt, meaning they are going to say that there is no doubt, etc., etc. Okay, some sentence is going to come up. There is no doubt that our age is very different, from previous ages, and I think it is perfectly correct to say, okay, here there are two connected statements. First one is that our age is very different from the previous ages. Okay, fine. Next one, I think, what does he think, the writer? It is perfectly correct to say that it is far more advanced. We are not only different, we are far more advanced as well, okay? But it is a different thing from saying that we as individuals or groups are more advanced. So, we are not just advanced as individuals and group, as a whole we are more advanced, okay? It would be the height of absurdity to say that because an engine driver can run an engine and Plato or Socrates could not, the engine driver is more advanced than or is superior to Plato or Socrates. Okay, here is a very unexpected comparison between an engine driver and Plato and Socrates. The writer is of the opinion, what is his opinion? That Plato and Socrates are no way inferior to any engine driver. The engine driver might know how to operate an engine or run an engine, but though Plato and Socrates don't know that, they are way superior or they are not inferior. Okay. Here is an example, a comparison, and he is not, he is with Plato and Socrates on this. Okay. That would be like claiming, okay, now that this situation, the comparison between an engine driver and Socrates and Plato are compared to what? Some other situation. What? Like claiming a smartphone user today is wiser than all the philosophers of ancient Greece combined. Okay, so here we have a smartphone, we have access to all things. If you ask about some unknown philosophy, I can just Google it and answer you. So they are telling that it is like comparing who? A person with a smartphone now and comparing it with some ancient Greek philosophers. They are way more, people with wisdom, though they didn't have smartphones at that time. But it would be perfectly correct to say, okay, though these are the situations, it would be perfectly correct to say what? That the engine itself is a more advanced method of locomotion than Plato's chariot was. Okay. So, though he is telling that an engine driver is no better than Plato and Socrates, he is also agreeing to the fact that the engine is a more advanced thing than Plato's chariot was. Okay, I am agreeing to that. That is his opinion. Okay. Now let's go to the questions. Which one of the following statements is true? Okay, this is a true and false situation. An engine driver is cleverer than Plato and Socrates. No, I just told that he made it clear that an engine driver is no better than Plato and Socrates. So that is not our answer. Plato and Socrates are in no way inferior to the engine driver. That is our answer. See, here in the answer keys, I mean in the options, the word inferior is used. The word inferior is used. Now, when I go back to the question, the passage, the word superior is used. See, here they are saying that the engine driver is not superior, but in the options they have said that Plato and Socrates are not inferior. The words are different, but the answer or the meaning is the same. I just want to, if you are keeping in mind superior as a keyword, you wouldn't find it in the options, right? It is inferior which is given here. So this is the answer. I don't think we have to take a look at the rest of the options because this is very obvious. Okay. Okay, identify the sentence that contains a hyperbole. Here I have already given what is a hyperbole because I thought it will be easier. An intentional exaggeration, meaning I am telling that, oh, this food is as huge as mountain or something like that. I am just comparing it with, something that is not comparable. I am exaggerating the situation. Okay, so that is an hyperbole here. Well, let's take a look at the options. Most of us use the products of science without thinking how they came into existence. There is no exaggeration there. It would be the height of absurdity to say that the engine driver is more advanced than Plato. Is it true? Is that answer right? Height of absurdity. No, it is a comparison between an engine driver and Plato and Socrates. No. That would be like, okay, here we are telling something. That would be like what? Claiming a smartphone user today is wiser than all the philosophers of ancient Greeks combined. And here we even have an exclamation mark, meaning it is something, oh, something of awe, right? So this is a hyperbole, and the engine is more advanced method of locomotion than Plato's chariot. No, it has nothing to do with an exaggeration part. So our answer is option C. In this passage, the author mentions Plato and Socrates to emphasize that actually he has been talking about an engine driver, people who are using smartphones and all that. Why is he comparing them with Plato and Socrates is the question. Look at the options. They were men of great scholarship. Okay, maybe that can be kept as an option. People as individuals in the modern age are not more advanced than their predecessors. Okay, the engine is a better mode of locomotion. No, it has nothing to do with engine. Plato and Socrates had greater respect for learning. No, it has nothing to deal with their personal characteristics. Okay, here we have two options. They were men of great scholarship is a fact, but don't you think people as individuals in the modern age, he is comparing the people in the modern age with them. And he is also making it, again confirming the fact that we are not superior to the philosophers. We are not superior to our predecessors just because we found out the engine, or if just because it is way better than Plato's chariot. Are we better than them? No, that is the whole point of this passage. So the answer is option B. Okay. According to the author, the present age is far more advanced than. What is it advanced than? All the previous ages in some respects, the age of Plato and Socrates in some respects, some of the previous ages in all respects, all the previous ages in all respects. What is it? It has something to deal with previous ages, right? That is right. Okay. Is it better than the previous ages in all ways? No. In certain things, we are better than them. Or in most of the things, we are better than them. All the previous ages in some respects. We are anyway advanced than the previous ages. That is sure, but not in all respects, but in a few. Many of us make use of the machine. That was the beginning, at the beginning of the sentence. How do we, make use of the signs? Without knowing how they were invented. We have no idea about their discovery or details or anything. So the answer is just here. With full knowledge, no. Without any knowledge of their historical significance. Are we talking about historical significance in the whole passage? No, we are not. With very little knowledge of their mechanism? No, we just exactly have this sentence in the passage. Okay. People today are very proud because they live, okay, in a philosophically advanced age? No. We have nothing speaking about philosophically advanced. In a materially advanced age? No. Spiritually? No. We have nothing that is related to spiritual. In a scientifically advanced age. So, I think that is the end of this passage. It was not that complicated as Michael Gorbachev, I guess. Okay. Now, let us take a look at the next passage. Economists, ethicists and business experts persuade us that honesty is the best policy. So, here we have something that is persuading them that honesty is the best policy. Okay. But their evidence is weak. Though they are persuading this ideology, they have no evidence. Okay. We hope to find data that would support their theories and thus perhaps encourage higher standards of business behavior. So, we are hoping to find more and more evidence and data to encourage higher standards of business behavior. Okay. To our surprise something happened. What was it? Their pet theories failed to stand up. Their theories did not come up to the mark. Okay. It failed. Okay. Treachery we found can pay. So, what is happening? Betrayal. Okay. Betrayal is what is happening. There is no compelling economic reason to tell the truth or keep one's word. So, there is nothing compelling them to do what is right or tell the truth. Okay. Punishment for the treacherous in the real world is neither swift nor sure. So, in the real world, you don't get punished for your mistakes as soon as we think we can. Okay. Now, honesty is in fact primarily, so now we are talking something about what is honesty. It is what? A moral choice. Okay. Business people do tell themselves that in the long run they will do well by doing good. Okay. So, here is what they are telling, that at the beginning the business people will be like, oh, you should be honest and that will bring you success in the long run and such, but there is little factual or logical basis for this conviction. So, here they are saying, though they are telling that we have to be honest, there is no factual or any kind of logical basis for whatever this principle or theory that they are persuading or pushing us through. Without values, without a basic preference of right over wrong, trust based on such a delusion would crumble in the face of temptation. So, here we have an ideology that is given, that means without any value or without any basic preference or what is right or what is wrong, trust based on such delusion would crumble in the face of temptation. When we are so naive, thinking that we have to do it right, we have to be honest, what will happen? It would crumble in the face of temptation. When temptation comes, we are going to crumble. And what happens at that time? Most of us choose virtue because we want to believe in ourselves and because others respect and believe us. So, sometimes we have to choose virtue. Why do we have to choose it? Because we want to believe in ourselves and because others respect and believe us. Okay, this is something to deal with the idea of business. Honesty is the best policy, that it has no factual or any kind of logical basis, but still they are promoting it, and we have to do business with fair mind because we respect ourselves and others have to respect us, etc., etc. Now, let us take a look at the question. Oh, there is some more to this sentence, and due to this we should be happy. So, if we are working by our virtue, it is said that we should be happy, and we can be proud of a system. We can be proud of a system in which people are honest. So generally we have a system, and if people are honest in it, we have to be proud about it because they want to be, not because they have to be. They are doing it purposefully. They choose to be honest is the thing. Okay. Materially, too, trust based on morality provides great advantages. So here comes some advantages of being trust, having a virtue, having integrity. What is it? Provides great advantages. And what are they? Allows us to join in great and exciting enterprises that could never undertake if we relied on economic incentives alone. So here, if we are true to what we do, what is happening? We are going to get, be a part in great adventures and enterprises, rather than just focusing on incentives, we will have a better life. Okay. Now again we are telling something that the economists have to tell about. The economists tell us that trust is enforced in the marketplace through retaliation and reputation. So here there is some idea that is contrary to honesty and trust and integrity and virtue that we were talking about. Through retaliation and reputation. Retaliation meaning taking revenge. If you violate a trust, okay, your victim is apt to seek revenge, and others are likely to stop doing business with you, at least under favorable terms. So here, how is this trust actually working in the economy? If you break someone's trust, what are you? You are going to lose business. That is the thing. They will seek revenge and others will stop doing business with you. Okay. A man or woman with a reputation for fair dealing will prosper. Okay. Somebody with a reputation for fair dealing will prosper. Okay. Therefore, profit maximizers are honest. Okay. People who are making a lot of profit every day, who are maximizing it, are honest. Okay. That's what the author is telling us. This sounds plausible enough until you look for concrete examples. Okay. Now, here is a reality. All this time we were telling, if you are honest, we are going to get more business. If the trust is lost, you are going to lose business and all that. But having, being honest in a business is a good ideology to have. But when you look for concrete examples, this sounds plausible enough. Until you look, meaning when you start looking for examples, this ideology is not that successful anyway. Okay, cases that apparently demonstrate the awful consequences of trust turn out to be few and weak, while evidence that treachery can pay seems compelling. Meaning, though we are telling we need to be trustworthy when we are doing business, when we come to real life, just like the beginning of the sentence, the factual and other logical basis, there is no enough evidence to show that. So people who are doing treachery or people who are treacherous are making profit out of it is the whole summary of this. Okay, this is a huge passage, but it is not that difficult to contemplate, I guess. Let's take a look at the options. According to the passage, what do economists and ethicists want us to believe? Honesty is the best policy. That was the first sentence of the passage. What is it? Always be honest? Cannot always be honest? That's not. Businessmen turn dishonest? No. Businessmen are honest only at times? No. They want us to believe, they persuade, they promote what? Businessmen should always be honest. That is the answer. Okay, what did the author find out about the theory that honesty is the best policy? See, the first question was related to the first sentence. The second question is related to the second sentence. It is correct on many occasions? Definitely not. It is correct for all business? No. It is a useless theory? No, it is not a useless theory, it works. Okay. Just we are left with the last option. It is a theory which seems to be correct only occasionally. That's what we said, that we don't have enough examples to show, we don't have enough evidence to show, but it works. So it happens, it is correct occasionally. Now, let's go to the next question. Why are businessmen, according to the author, honest in their dealings? Now we are talking about those category, who are honest. Businessmen are God-fearing? No, there is no keyword as God-fearing in the passage. Businessmen choose to be honest. Remember when I explained the passage, I said something about we choose to be good. It is a choice, okay? Businessmen are honest by nature? No. All businessmen are caught if they are dishonest? No. It has nothing to say about all businessmen being caught, getting caught. So the answer is businessmen choose to be honest. It is a choice. Do you want to go back to the sentence, to the passage to see where it is? Maybe you can just go back once, right? It's not here, I guess. Okay. So it has something to do that honesty, in fact, primarily a moral choice. It is a choice. Okay, let's go to the fourth question. According to the author, which of the following is the reason for being honest in business? Okay, what is the reason? It gives no immediate benefits. Is that the reason? No. It gives no long-term benefits. The passage says nothing about having a long-term benefit. Okay. It makes a person self-seeking. No. Does it make us self-seeking? No. So the answer is none of the above. The reason for being honest in business is actually a moral choice taken by people so that we gain respect and we respect each other for having a virtue in business. Remember that the first page of the passage at the very bottom, we had these lines. Now, fifth one. Why does the author say that one can be proud of the present situation? Yes, we had something that said that we are proud of. Proud of what? People are self-respecting, respect seekers, unselfish, people are honest without compulsion. What might be the answer? People are honest without compulsion. I think maybe if we go back to the passage, you will get an idea about that. Yes, see, we can be proud of a system in which people are honest because they want to and not because they have to be, meaning no compulsion. Okay. Now, let's go back to the next question. What is the material advantage which the author sees in being honest? There is some advantage the author is seeing, right? It permits one to undertake activities which may not be economically attractive. Okay, that might be an answer. It permits one to be honest for the sake of honesty alone. No. It permits one to make a lot of profit in various areas. Okay, that might be an answer. It permits one to form various trusts to make profit. Okay, that can also be an answer. So here the answer is actually option A. It permits one to undertake activities which may not be economically attractive. To explain this, I am going back to the passage. So, where is it? Is it in the first? I think it is in the second page. Yes. What is it? Materially too, trust based on morality provides great advantages. And what are the advantages? It allows join in great and exciting enterprises that could never undertake if we were just relied on incentives alone. Okay, so it has something that we are telling that we should not be focused on incentives alone. We have to focus on the, the brighter side, to have to take part in different enterprises. So that is the answer. Okay. Why do businessmen, according to economists, remain honest? Okay, why do they remain honest? Because they can make more money? Definitely not, because we just understood that it is not economically that viable. Okay. Make money in the long run, that is also, there is no evidence to that they are going to make money in the long run, though we can keep it as an option. Dishonest businessmen cannot stay in business for long. Yes, that makes sense. We will just keep it. Dishonest businessmen are flogged in the marketplace. No, these are not the answer. So here we have a comparison between two options, that is option B and option C. But we have something in the passage that says that they stay honest because they will not be avoided. I am going back to the passage. Okay, and due to this we should be happy, we can be proud of a system and all that being said. And then it is said that economists argue that what? Reputation and retaliation force business. See, victim is apt to seek revenge and others are likely to stop doing business with you, at least under favorable terms. So, a man or woman with a reputation for fair dealing will prosper, therefore profit maximizers are honest. So, in the long run, though at least under favorable terms, they will stop doing business with you if you are not honest. That is the reason. Yes, they will not be doing business with you or cannot stay in business for long. Okay. Which of the following phrases is most nearly the same in meaning as the word persuade as it has been used in the passage? What is it? Persuade. I am persuading you into doing something. I am persuading you to kill his brother, meaning I am convincing him to do that. Meaning I am trying to convince that person, make him do that. Which of the following is false according to the passage? It's a true and false. Let's see. Economists believe that all businessmen are dishonest. Is it? No, we are talking about both honest and dishonest people. Option A, we need not really go back to the next few. All dishonest men are not caught, that is true. Virtuous behavior earns the respect of others, that is true. Generally people are honest so as to earn self-respect, yes, that is also true. So the right answer is option A. Okay. Okay, let's go. Which of the following best describes what the author is trying to point out through the last sentence of the passage, saying cases that etc. compelling something? The consequences of dishonesty, is it? Theories do not seem to be true. That's what we concluded, right? Though we are telling that we need to be honest, trustworthy, and that is going to make us profit and all that, at the end what did we say? There is no evidence, right? When it comes to the evidence, there isn't any. So the theories do not seem to be true. The theories seem to be telling something else, that is the thing. Economists predict correctly, the contradictions in the real world, no. It is actually about the theories do not seem to be true, though in certain cases. Okay, I think that is the end of that passage. We nearly dealt with 10 questions. Though the passage was long, we had 10 questions. So we had enough time to, revise each and every sentence in the passage.